At the checkout of Harlow's Market, stood an elderly man named Harold Bennett, carefully counted a handful of coins. His hands trembled slightly, not just from age, but from worry that the small pile of money wouldn't be enough. Bread, milk, and a few vegetables rested on the counter. The cashier tapped her fingers impatiently on the counter, her face distant and tired. A few customers behind Harold muttered under their breath, clearly frustrated. Harold's heart sank. He whispered that he might have to put some items back, his voice shaking with embarrassment. The coins in his hand barely added up, and the weight of the moment felt unbearable. Just then, a small voice broke through the tension. Mia, a curious 9-year-old with tangled brown hair and dirt-smudged cheeks, stepped forward. She held a folded bill in her tiny hand and offered it to Harold. I can help," she said softly. "You can use this for your groceries. But before we dive into what happens next, I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from today? Drop your country in the comment below and please like the video. Thank you. Now let's continue." Harold looked at her in surprise, his eyes widening. For a moment, the impatience of the other customers, the tapping of the cashier, the dull hum of the store, all of it seemed to fade away. Harold stared at the little girl, stunned. He wanted to refuse, to tell her she didn't have to, but something about her earnest eyes stopped him. They were bright and full of determination, the kind that seemed too pure for the world's harshness. "Are you sure?" he whispered, his voice trembling. Mia nodded, her small hand holding the bill tightly. "I've been saving it. Please, you need it more than I do." The cashier glanced at them, her expression softening for the first time that afternoon. She took the bill and quickly bagged Harold's groceries, giving him a kind smile. Harold felt a lump in his throat. He tried to speak, but only a soft, shaky "thank you" escaped. For the first time in a long while he felt seen, not as a struggling, invisible man, but as someone who still mattered. Around them, the other customers went silent, watching the scene quietly. Even the hum of the refrigerators seemed to fade. In that small moment, the little girl's simple act had turned the store into a space of warmth and hope. Harold carefully picked up his bag, his eyes still glistening. With Mia's gift, he walked toward the door, a faint smile breaking across his weathered face. Harold stepped outside Harlow's Market, carrying his bag of groceries. The afternoon sun was beginning to soften, painting the street in warm gold. For a moment he paused, taking a deep breath. Today had been hard, but something had shifted inside him. Across the sidewalk, a low rumble grew louder. Harold's eyes widened as he turned toward the sound. A line of motorcycles gleamed in the sunlight, their chrome shining like silver. The riders sat silently, watching through the glass doors, a quiet presence that seemed both powerful and familiar. These weren't just any bikers. They were the Steel Riders, a brotherhood known for helping those in need. Harold's heart tightened. He had once been their leader, a man full of purpose and pride, but years of loss. His wife, his home, his health, had left him invisible, forgotten by the world. Now, standing there, he realized how far he had fallen. And yet, in that moment, he felt a spark of something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Without drawing attention, he straightened his shoulders and continued down the street, a quiet smile touching his face. The little girl's act of kindness had reminded him that even in the darkest times, someone could see you, care for you, and perhaps life could still surprise you. Mia walked home with her mother as the sun dipped behind the trees, casting long shadows across the quiet streets. Her small hand clutched her mother's tightly, and a soft smile lingered on her face. She felt light, happy, as though a weight had lifted from her chest. That evening, their little kitchen smelled of simmering stew. Mia's mother moved quietly, chopping vegetables and stirring the pot, while Mia sat by the window, gazing at the stars beginning to appear in the deepening sky. "I helped someone today," Mia whispered to herself, her voice full of pride. And it felt good. Her mother glanced at her and smiled, unaware of the full story, but sensing her daughter's joy. Mia's eyes lingered on the night sky, sparkling with possibilities. She had no idea how far her small act of kindness would reach, but in that moment, she felt that she had made a difference. The crickets chirped outside, filling the evening air, as the town slowly settled into quiet. Mia's heart swelled with a happiness that came from doing something good, unaware that her actions had already begun to set something extraordinary in motion. Hours later, as the clock neared 9, a deep, rolling rumble echoed in the distance. Mia's eyes widened, and she ran barefoot to the porch, her heart racing. The sound grew louder, vibrating through the ground, until it was impossible to ignore. Down the street, hundreds of motorcycles appeared, their headlights cutting through the night. The engines roared in unison, filling the quiet neighborhood with a thunderous energy. Neighbors peeked out of their windows, astonished by the unexpected spectacle. From the middle of the crowd, Harold Bennett stepped forward. Clean and standing tall, he wore a leather vest marked with the insignia of the Steel Riders. His face, lined with years of hardship, now glowed with pride and purpose. Mia's mother stepped outside, startled and unsure of what was happening. But Harold's gaze found Mia, and a gentle smile spread across his face. "I want to thank you," he said, his voice steady but warm. "What you did for me today. It reminded me that there is still kindness in the world." Mia blinked, unable to speak, as the rumble of motorcycles seemed to shake the entire street. Around them, the bikers stood silently, waiting. In that moment, the little girl who had offered a simple gift of compassion saw the magnitude of her actions reflected in the man who had once led these riders. The bikers slowly moved forward, unloading boxes from their trucks. Groceries, clothes, toys, and other supplies were stacked carefully in Mia's yard. Harold handed her mother an envelope. Inside was enough money to cover months of overdue rent and repair the leaky roof. Mia's mother stared in disbelief, tears forming in her eyes. I don't know what to say," she whispered. Harold smiled gently. "No need to say anything. Your daughter reminded me that hope still exists. We want to make sure your family is taken care of." The bikers worked together to carry items inside the house. They promised to help fix it up, repaint the walls, and even build a small garden where Mia could grow flowers, a dream she had longed for. Mia stood frozen, overwhelmed by the scene. These men, who looked so rough and intimidating from afar, were now filling her home with warmth and generosity. She slowly approached Harold and hugged him tightly. His eyes glistened with tears, reflecting the gratitude and joy he felt for the first time in years. The neighborhood watched quietly, astonished at the kindness pouring into the small house. In that moment, Mia realized how much one small act could ripple outward, touching lives in ways she could never have imagined. As the bikers finished arranging the gifts, Harold stepped forward with a small leather jacket in his hands. "This is for you, Mia," he said softly. The smallest rider among the Steel Riders. Mia's eyes widened as Harold draped the jacket around her shoulders. On the back was a patch that read "Little Rider." She could hardly believe it, this honor from a group she had never imagined meeting. The bikers roared their engines in unison, a thunderous salute that shook the air. Mia's heart raced, tears spilling down her cheeks. She looked around at the men, tattooed, rough-looking, but smiling and laughing as they watched her. A bonfire was lit in the front yard, and soon neighbors began to gather. They brought dishes to share, joining the impromptu celebration. Laughter, warmth, and the smell of food filled the night. Stories were told, bonds were formed, and the small yard transformed into a place of joy and community. For Harold, the moment was more than just gratitude, it was a rebirth. He had found family again, not only in the Steel Riders but in the brave little girl whose kindness had reminded him of what truly matters. By morning, the rumble of motorcycles had faded, leaving only the scent of gasoline and the warmth of last night's laughter. The Steel Riders had gone, but the changes they brought remained. Mia's house looked bright and renewed, freshly painted walls, repaired roof, and a small garden beginning to bloom. Mia waved from the porch as the last motorcycles disappeared over the horizon. She didn't fully understand how far her small act of kindness had reached, but she felt a quiet pride deep in her heart. Word of the event quickly spread through the town. Neighbors spoke of the generosity they had witnessed, inspired by the courage and compassion of a little girl. Soon letters, donations, and offers of help began arriving from people near and far, each one sparked by Mia's simple gesture at the market. Harold watched Mia from a distance, smiling. The once lonely man had found purpose again, reminded that even the smallest act of love could ripple outward, touching countless lives. The town itself seemed lighter, as if hope and kindness had been restored, one heart at a time. Weeks later, above Harlow's market, a new sign appeared. Painted by hand, it read, "In honor of Mia, the little rider, one act of kindness can spark a wave of hope." Shoppers paused to read it, smiling at the reminder that even small gestures can make a difference. Inside the store, the shelves seemed brighter, the air warmer. Mia stood on the porch of her home, watching the town go about its day. She remembered Harold's words from that first afternoon. Kindness doesn't cost much, but it can bring someone's faith back. The story of her small act had grown beyond her imagination. People from near and far had been inspired to help others, proving that a single act of compassion could ripple outward and change lives. Mia smiled softly, feeling proud and hopeful. She didn't know how far her story would travel, but she understood something simple and true. Even the tiniest heart, full of courage and love, could spark a change the world would never forget. If this story made you smile, please leave a comment and tell us what you think. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories about kindness and hope.